Welcome back to Live from the Bunker with FUBAR, and it hasn't been a very good last few months for the anti-Gamergate goons. In between members being discredited for lying about filing police reports regarding harassment, people crying about not being able to find a job within the game industry after calling all gamers scum, and the whole Death Eaters fiasco, which, was so incredibly ridiculous I didn't even bother doing a video about that. But this past week has been E3, and it has been eventful. Now, at the very beginning of E3, one of the people within Gamergate who I follow said, you know what, guys, don't bother saying anything about what the anti-Gamergaters are going to be saying at E3 this year. Let's just all sit back and watch them make fools of themselves. And that's pretty much exactly what the anti-Gamergaters have done this past week. As you probably know, the Doom gameplay trailer debuted at E3. It looks awesome. It looks cool. A lot of people are really psyched for it. And Anita Sarkeesian and her goon squad got all over Twitter complaining about violence in video games and how disturbing it was to see a room full of people cheering for seeing people like demons and people getting blown apart and limbs flying and this and that. First of all, you're gonna jump onto the anti-violence bandwagon? Really? The whole feminism thing didn't work out, so now you're gonna get on violence? That's pretty low-hanging fruit. Politicians have been pulling that crap since, Mortal Kombat and Night Trap back in the 90s. You're going with a more popular thing to piss and moan about other than feminism video games. You're going on the anti-violence in video games thing? Really? That's a pretty desperate move, guys. Very desperate. But yeah, pretty much they got their butts handed to them for their anti-violence crap. And then, of course, there was the whole Tomb Raider incident and Anita Sarkeesian saying how refreshing it was to see Lara Croft wearing sensible clothing. And instantly, people were posting pictures of Lara Croft back in the 90s in her early video games wearing sensible clothing. She has very rarely been in anything revealing. Sure, the first game she was, in a skin-tight outfit, but for crying out loud, look at that old, PlayStation 1 graphics. That's not exactly very demeaning or sexualizing of a character. Get real, okay? And of course, after that, there was the whole Deus Ex incident of people, calling the game racially insensitive and only privileged, white game developers would do something so insensitive. And the main director of the new Deus Ex game posted a very, very well written response to all of those allegations. And he just so happens to be of African descent. He posted about how they, made him feel like less than a person within the game industry for how ignorant they were. I'll post a link to his response. You got to read it. It's very good. So, they got caught, making fools out of themselves with that too. They claim racism before they even know who the person who was writing all of this was. And, just assuming that the maker of this game was white in the first place is a sign of how racist you are. Also assuming the person who was doing it was a man. If it had been a woman writing this, would it have not been sexist or racist or whatever? So yeah, the social justice warriors have had their butts handed to them at E3, and pretty much everyone is laughing at them. In fact, if you look at some of the mainstream coverage of E3, there's a lot of people within the mainstream media talking about social justice warriors making fools of themselves at E3 this past year. But then all of a sudden yesterday, a bomb hit. All over the city, these posters of Anita Sarkeesian, the Femme Freak posters, were popping up all over the area right around the convention center. Now, and I said this on Twitter at the very beginning after I saw this poster, What is it and why? I really don't get it. It's a picture of Anita Sarkeesian with, Femme Freak, which apparently is supposed to be a play on Feminine Frequency, her show or her channel or whatever the hell she wants to call it, with the "all your tropes are belong to us, honey." Now, I said to someone on Twitter after I saw this, you know what, if I did not know who Anita Sarkeesian was, I would assume this would be something promoting her. If I had no idea who she was or what she stood for, this is like an advertisement for something, not something certainly not harassing or insulting a person or making fun of that person. I don't get it. There's nothing offensive on there. Someone said because they used the word freak. First of all, like, the word freak hasn't been a derogatory term since the 1950s. Get with the frickin' times. But I don't see anything offensive or harassing about it. And like I said, I would assume this would be something promoting something. Not something, criticizing someone or ridiculing someone. I don't get it. And apparently, if you look very close, you can see the Gamergate hashtag in the background, which led to a couple of quote unquote, mainstream gaming media outlets claiming that this was harassment by Gamergaters. Really? Okay, you're gonna blame us. Okay, what evidence? Come on. Who did this? Does anyone even freaking know? None of the bigger, names in Gamergate have taken credit for this, as far as I'm aware. And if someone within Gamergate had done this, they would have taken credit for this by now. It doesn't, and even if someone within Gamergate was doing this, it's not all that insulting. I don't get it. I really don't freaking get it. Why you would be blaming, Gamergaters for this in the first place. But even if it was Gamergate, like, what's the problem? There's nothing offensive on there. Nothing. Come on. But that's the road that a few different outlets, and I don't think I need to name them. I think you know who they are, especially if you've been following this story, have said. And in the hours after this, people whining, complaining, calling, "Oh, anyone who says Gamergate is not about, harassment, take a look at this." What's harassing about that, guys? Seriously. But the longer this story goes on, first of all, like, no one within Gamergate thought it was cool or neat or anything like that, or even offensive. I mean, like, what's the deal? Like, it wasn't one of us in the first place, but what's the big deal about the poster? And within, like, the very early hours of this thing coming out, people within Gamergate were saying that it was stupid. But the anti-Gamergaters were just kept accusing. Now, as the hours have passed, many an allegation has been thrown around. As of right now, it looks, and I may have to retract this later, and if I have to, I will own up to me making a mistake, unlike certain game journalists will not do that. This is quite possibly the work of a conservative graffiti artist within that area. People have posted other pictures by this same artist, and it looks very similar to the same style in which the Femme Freak poster was done. Apparently this guy is, I believe the name of this organization or person is Sabo, which is some kind of far-right graffiti movement. And I'm looking at a couple of their other posters, and yes, it's very similar to the other posters, and where they're making fun of Hillary Clinton. And apparently this is like not a video game thing, this is just an anti-liberal thing. So it does not look like this is a Gamergate thing or something that a Gamergate person did. So first of all, okay, That's one possibility. But another possibility that's being thrown around, and this is not fact. I will say this outright. This is not fact. But this is something that, people are debating on. This, might be a possibility, is that Anita Sarkeesian supporters are actually doing this as a harassment hoax. Now, like I said, there's no proof of this, but from the evidence I'm seeing, especially with everything that has happened in this past week regarding her and her getting discredited and making a fool of herself, this looks like something those people would do. This does look like the kind of hoax that her supporters would pull. That's just my opinion. This is not fact. If I have to retract this later on, I will. I will own up to making my mistake if proof ever comes. We may never know who pulled this crap. But after the week of incredibly poor press that she has received, making a fool of herself, and now all of a sudden this, and now she's getting sympathy from the mainstream gaming media. She's got her name back in the spotlight, at least for a little while. She gets, another 15 minutes of fame until, people don't care once again when the next time she opens her mouth and says something idiotic. But yeah, this does look like a desperation move to try to stay relevant. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Now, we do not know who's responsible yet. We don't. But if it was her supporters, I would not be surprised. That's why I'm putting a question mark in the, title of this video. Did they pull a harassment hoax? Because that's what this looks like. A hoax. Or at least not the work of Gamergate. So that's all I have to say about this particular matter. I felt like I had to come out and say something because, I was going to just sit on the sidelines and not do anything about the anti-Gamergaters this week because they were just, making fools out of themselves and doing our job for us. But after this thing, I felt something had to be said. I really did. The videos I've done this past week have been focusing on the thing that is important about E3, and that would be the actual games. Why are we talking about Anita Sarkeesian? Why are we not talking about Doom? Why are we not talking about the Walking Dead Telltale's game with Michonne? Why are we not, crying about the new Metroid game, which everyone is really ticked off about? Why are we talking about Anita Sarkeesian? Because she makes us talk about her. Me, 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 I want the spotlight. Me, 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 everyone look at me. That's her in a nutshell. And the picture that you're watching during this video, the femme fail, that's my edit of that particular poster, and I will take credit for that edit. Credit for that edit. So yeah, I think I improved upon it. So thank you for listening. I will be doing an E3 wrap-up video very soon where I talk about the winners and the losers. But you know what? I don't think I even need to talk about losers in the E3 wrap-up video because I just got finished talking about the losers. Thank you for listening and watching. I will see you next time in the bunker.
Stronger. You see? You see? Your stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid! That's all I'm taking from you. Get back here, you fool!